for us, after 10 years of talking, to finally start Eigen around this approach of priming therapies, there was really this confluence of a bunch of different factors that came together. The first was looking at the current field of cancer. We're going to talk a little bit about, we've talked about people developing these next generation therapies, the state of the art, and we were looking at specifically antigen-directed therapies, or therapies that are tuned to target cells with a particular surface protein. So that includes ADCs, antibody-drug conjugates, and RLTs, radioligand therapies. And we were looking at that field, and we saw ADCs were huge. They were growing. They've sort of had their second resurgence in recent years. And they were looking to be the state of the art. Right behind them, the next big thing, if not already the big thing, are radioligand therapies. And so we believe that modalities like these are really the future of cancer treatment. So keep that in mind. With these being the future of cancer treatment, one thing that we also noticed was that many of these therapies still left pretty large swaths of cancer patients that were kind of underserved. That there were patients that could not stand to benefit from these therapies. One example that I really like, there is an ADC that targets this surface protein called folate receptor alpha for ovarian cancer. It is the first therapy targeted for folate receptor alpha for this target for ovarian cancer. And that's great, that's fantastic. When you look at the label that's approved for, it's only for patients with advanced ovarian cancer, which basically means a high expression of folate receptor alpha. And that's about 35% of patients. And so these therapies, which we do truly believe are the future of cancer treatment, are still addressing like 20 to 30% of the population of patients for these indications. So we look at that and we start thinking, how do we expand that? How can we expand the reach of these therapies so that more patients can stand to benefit from them? So that was sort of that area of expanding reach of the next generation of cancer treatment. The other one was really looking at the maturity of priming as a field. Kamran, I know, had been thinking about priming for, again, like 15 years. He had been thinking about it since at least grad school, but we're not going to sit here and claim that we invented the concept of priming. When we searched the field, what was pretty interesting was that priming was in this sweet spot. There are clinical trials happening right now that are essentially priming combinations. There's a small molecule that primes cancer to be easier to find and eliminate, combined with an ADC that targeted against a particular protein that this small molecule upregulates. So they already exist. There's some precedence. That's fantastic. All the examples that we found were examples of priming that essentially put together two therapies that already existed, like an ADC that was investigational with a small molecule that was approved, or vice versa. And so there was sort of this interesting in between. Priming existed, still widely unsearched. In fact, no one that we found had actually created a company whose job was to systematically develop and discover more priming therapies. And that was where we decided to be Eigen, to create Eigen, to make the first platform to develop more of these priming therapies, to get them into the world. And really the only company to be essentially obsessed about priming.
So those early priming therapies were two companies deciding to kind of look at targeting something together rather than one company,
In some cases, what you'll see is a company is developing an ADC, and they'll look at clinical trials of combinations with that ADC. So that ADC combined with, for example, the standard of care for that indication, sometimes combined with other molecules. Some of those molecules also happen to upregulate the target that ADC is targeted against, and there you have a priming combination.
I see, yeah. And is that sort of triggered by the company trying to make their own therapy, I guess, more effective, or it doesn't quite?
It is, yeah. It's the same sort of driver of, I have this therapy. It's not going to be a silver bullet. I'm not sure anything we make will be a silver bullet that treats all cancers, of course. But given this therapy, how do we improve its efficacy for patients? Combinations are one great way to do that. And if we're talking about the future, we also believe combinations are the future of cancer treatment. So there's ADCs, there's radioligand therapies, there's all these other antigen-directed therapies, and there's also combinations. So how can we make the rest of the combination?